Welcome to my channel where we discuss various topics related to Quebec and Canadian real estate. As always, my name is Joseph Noor. I'm a licensed real estate broker here in the province of Quebec. And in today's episode, I am continuing our series on condo, aka co-ownership. Yes, I did mention that there's a lot of items to cover, and today's episode is not even the conclusion. So I still have a few episodes in the series, and they're important topics that we need to touch on. But today is a good one as well. We're going to be talking about the famous condo fees or co-ownership fee. They go by many names. In the purpose of this video, I'm just going to refer to them as condo fees. In your local area, it might be called differently. I know in some places in the state, they call them HOA fee or stuff like that. But we're going to use condo fees. So let's get right into it. So what are condo fees? So they're an annual fee that are usually billed monthly or quarterly, depending on the co-ownership. And it's a fee that each owner have to pay in addition to their regular expense, the mortgage, their taxes, their insurance. Each co-owner will have to pay a condo fee. And the amount of that condo fee is relative to the size of the share that they have in the common area. So if you remember in one of the previous episodes, we talked about relative value of your unit and the share that you have. So I'm not going to go back into that topic, but what you need to remember is the easiest way to understand this is the larger your unit, logically, the more condo fees you're going to pay. So if you have 2,000 square feet of living space and there's another unit that has 1,000, usually your condo fees will be more expensive than the other one. And those condo fees serve an important purpose. So let's just say you're paying $500 of condo fees. Part of that fee that you're paying is going to be used to pay the operational expense of the entire building. So electricity in the common area, snow removal, grass cutting, any maintenance, day-to-day operation that is needed to have a functional building. It's going to cover it. And most of the condo fees are going to pay for that operational cost. And then the rest of the condo fee will go into part of the fee that you're paying goes into what we refer to as a contingency and an auto insurance fund. These two funds are extremely important. I'm not going to talk about them today. They're going to be a topic of a future video. But what I will mention is contingency fund usually by law here in Quebec. I don't know how it works in other provinces, but there is rules and regulation around having a minimum of 5% of all the condo fees collected need to go into this contingency fund, and it's used to pay for major repair. But like I said, more on that topic in a future episode. And if it hasn't been obvious, these condo fees are used for common area only. So it's not you can't use the funds. You don't control the fund as an owner. It's it's owned by the co-ownership, but the funds will not be used to do any repair on your unit. So something to understand. So that's something that you will have to budget. So any major repair in your unit, you will have to pay for it unless like there's insurance damage. Then if you have proper coverage, that should be covered. Also, one very important thing to consider or to know, which is not common knowledge, but if you remember in a previous episode, I talked about, you had private area, which is the part that you own, that you're buying, and you had two types of common area. So we had the regular common area, so stairs, hallway, entrance, roof, those are all common area. And you have restricted common area. And restricted common area, if you remember, they are area where they are restricted to a specific owner. Example, the balcony, or if you have a parking spot that is not, that doesn't have a lot number, meaning that it's owned by the building, but you have restricted use on it, that is also a common area with restricted use. What I want to mention in relation to condo fees is that in the typically these major repairs for these restricted common area are paid as part of the common area fees, that the condo fees that everybody contributes to. However, if in the declaration of co-ownership, that famous document we talked about in a previous episode, if in the declaration of co-ownership there is a mention that the owner will be responsible for any major repair of the restricted common area, that is something that you want to consider and should be part of your analysis before you purchase a property. And if you're working with a qualified realtor, that is something that they need to highlight. So just important for you, it's important to keep that in mind, because that would affect the value of the property you're buying. Also, needless to say, these condo fees are not cheap, right? I mean, in Montreal, relative to Toronto or Vancouver, what I'm hearing is we're cheap compared to there. But it's very common to have $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 condo fees, and these fees you're going to pay constantly as long as you're the owner. So even if you finish paying the mortgage, condo fees will still be there, right? And they don't go down; they typically go up. So it's very important to include that in your budget. So if you remember in one of our first video where I talked about the 8th step to successfully purchase your next home, one of the first steps was knowing your costs. So condo fees should definitely be part of your budget, and those are considered a recurring cost. Moving on to how condo fees are established. So typically, if I had to summarize this, the co-ownership will establish a yearly budget, and based on that yearly budget, you need to have a certain amount of revenue that needs to come in, revenue aka condo fees. And so that will be cascaded to all the owner via a notice of assessment. And usually there's some co-ownership that will not send a notice of assessment, typically smaller co-ownership that are not properly managed. So those are things you want to look into. But in these notice of assessment, it will mention how much condo fees you will be paying. And generally speaking, the more services there are in a building, common area, the higher the condo fees will be. So if you have a building that has elevator, pool, gaming room, gym, name it, the more common area there are, usually the higher the condos fees will be, because the higher the maintenance and operational expense. So something to keep in mind. Also, obviously, when people are looking to buy a condo or any type of co-ownership property, condo fees will be one of the things they look at. What you want to make sure you don't fall in the trap of just shopping for units that have low condo fees, because low condo fees is typically a red flag, because they're going to eventually go up, and sometimes they can go up very rapidly. So keep in mind that part of the condo fees that you are paying is to run the building and prepare for major repair. So if you buy a unit that for the last 10 years, the previous owner was paying dirt cheap condo fees, most likely the financial stability of that co-ownership is not great. And therefore, to be able to pay for those future major repair, they will have to send a special assessment. And if you remember, we touched on that in a previous episode, but special assessment or fees that you'll have to pay above and beyond condo fees, they're usually a one-time fee, but it can happen for many years. And so usually if you're buying a property with cheap condo fee, there's high chance that you'll have special assessment in the future. Typically when you're buying a unit, if a special assessment has been sent to the owners, that should be mentioned in the seller declaration if the seller is using a realtor. But you can do your research, especially if you're working with a realtor. They can research to make sure that there is no special assessment in sight. However, in one of the previous episodes, I mentioned that you should be looking into the meeting minutes. So that's the recorded meetings of the owners. And typically, if there's any hint of special assessment, you will see it. And when you go through the financial statement of the co-ownership, you'll get an idea if there are special unit that are going to come, special assessment that are going to come, or if the condo fees will not have the co-ownership will not have a choice to increase it. You can kind of tell by reading the financials. The last thing I want to touch on is the proration at the notary. So if you're buying a property, when you go to the notary, there will be a prorated adjustment depending on when you're buying. So easiest way I can explain to this is if you're buying in July, so half the year already done, let's just say the owner has already paid for all the condo fee for the year, you'll have to pay back the current owner for the second half of the year because you're becoming the owner and it's already paid for, similar to the taxes. So it's just something to remember. It's an additional amount that you'll have to pay when you go to the notary, in addition to all the other fee that we talked about in previous episode. And that concludes our episode for today on condo fees. So I hope the information was of value to you. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.